The Ogun state in southwest Nigeria has been on the front burner of the discourse around the ongoing campaigns towards the 2019 elections, but much of the noise has been about the governorship primaries of the two biggest parties, APC and PDP. However, the Alliance for New Nigeria has quietly produced its own candidate in the state in the form of Ademola Ogunbanjo, who joins us now to look at the dynamics of politics in Ogun state and, of course, his aspiration to re-engineer governance in the state. Good morning, Ademola. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's
Thanks
nice to have you on.
me.
Welcome to Arise Africa. Now, before we get started, because obviously you're here to talk about very serious things, I mean, Ogun State is a very important state, not only in terms of Nigeria, but also for us personally. I mean, you're from Ogun State.
Yeah,
My mother is from Ogun State. So this is a very personal interview for us.
And you happen to be representing Ijebu-Igbo, correct?
Absolutely.
And
I'm from Ijebu-Igbo. I will be representing the state.
Yes. Oh, of course. And I'm also from Ijebu, so we have a nice commonality there as well.
Now, interestingly enough, there are three main parties currently on ground in Ogun State. We have the ADC, we have the PDP, and we have the APC. Now, the Alliance for New Nigeria is a smaller party. Why don't you, before we get into the ins and outs of your manifestos and good governance, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your political party and how your beliefs align with that of Nigeria?
Thank you again for having me. ANN for me was an unintended positive consequence. That's my membership of ANN. My presidential candidate, Mr. Fela Odurotoye, had introduced me to ANN, and I joined only to support Fela Odurotoye's aspiration, because the constitution of ANN had said that all card-carrying party members would vote at the presidential primaries to choose the candidate. So in order for my vote to count in support of Fela Odurotoye, I joined ANN.
Now, interesting enough that you say that, because, you know, that was just to get you in. We wanted to just, you know, get you a little bit comfortable. We're going to go right in there now, because there's a few things that you've said that I find very interesting. Not only are you the governorship candidate for Ogun State, you've made some very interesting, you know, statements in your manifesto. Now, your intention apparently is to make Ogun State the wealthiest state by 2025. Now, I have to get right in there and ask how you intend to do that, because that is a big ask.
Good, thank you.
Please,
so,
please.
The agenda is to make Ogun State the wealthiest state in Nigeria by 2025.
Yes.
However, we must also discuss the parameters by which this wealth would be measured.
Okay.
Right? One is revenue. Okay, drive up revenue, which of course is a function of productivity. And that productivity we intend to drive by investing in agriculture, and not only investing in agriculture towards an objective. What's that objective? To turn Ogun State into the food basket of the Southwest region. All right, that's one. And then the second line for productivity is industrializing Ogun State along the lines of our natural resources, of which we have quite, you know, a number. So that's first indices. Second indices, the quality of our human capital. So we invest in education, conventional education, and skills acquisition through TVET, that's technical and vocational education and training. And how do you measure the quality of the people of a state? You use, for conventional education, you use indices, for example, like JAM or WAEC. I am saying to you that by 2025, when WAEC releases the results, of students in Nigeria, top 10, Ogun State students will be about 6.
Okay.
And
above Ekiti State?
Oh, definitely. Right? Absolutely.
That's a good question.
Because that's the agenda. Now, how do you then ensure that you boost the quality of education to the point where your students begin to lead across the country? Is the conversation I believe we will have subsequently.
I want to interject here, because this sounds very great, and not a lot of candidates have made this claim of making Ogun State the wealthiest state. I would love to see that in my lifetime. And although it's, you know, you're saying 2025, now currently Lagos generated about 302 billion naira in 2017, whilst Ogun did 72 billion naira in 2017. Now, how do you intend to supersede Lagos by 2025?
So that was 2026, 202 billion and 72 billion.
That's correct.
And you're right. 2017, 333 billion for Lagos, 74 billion for Ogun State.
Are you going to move all the multinationals from Lagos to Ogun State?
So here's the deal. Yeah? Internally generated revenue can be boosted By doing one of two things or both, right? And what you find commonly across the country is the one that is not the most viable one. It's not sustainable, or the more viable one. And that's deepening taxes and levies on, the existing commercial system, rather than the second, which is expanding the commercial system, right? So that you have more people or more organizations to tax. Okay, so how do we then get to the point where, as third, with 74 billion, second being River State,
yes,
and then first being, so we're far third, all right? So how do we do that? We industrialize. We invest in agriculture. We invest in agriculture. And I'll let you in on it. It's long term, right, 6 years, right? 6 years. But let's start with agriculture. Okay?
Long term and capital intensive.
Yes, but today there are seeds that if you planted, say a cocoa seed, they will fruit in 3 years.
Yes, that's correct.
So by 2025, we've done 2 rounds, okay? The bottom line is, once upon a time, there were certain people known in Ogun State as Awolowo Cocoa, that is, people who, came about their wealth through cocoa farming.
Yes. Yeah, my great-grandfather actually was one of them, yeah.
Yeah, good. It gets even more personal, right? Now, where are they now?
Dead.
Dead. Yeah. Not passed on to the next generation, and the government has done nothing about it. Maybe nothing is too absolute, so I take that back. They haven't done enough about it, right? Because that is a major resource.
So essentially, you're saying that you are going to make Ogun State the wealthiest state by 2025 by turning it into a food basket, as you've just said. Agriculture is the main.
And
that's
education.
one way. Now, and education. So agriculture and education. Anything else? Because I'm still trying to understand and ascertain how you're going to do this, because it's a wide margin, Ademola.
Yes, so I'm covered.
Okay, please.
So there are 3 indices. So let me tell you the third. So I'd said revenue.
Yes.
Right. Quality of human capital.
Yes.
And then well-being.
Okay.
That's how we're going to measure the wealth. Okay. That's the wealth.
Okay.
All right. So now let's move to the one that you are focused on, and that's the revenue. And I'd said that will be driven.
Well, not that we're focused on, that Nigeria is focused on, because at the end of the day, the thing about Ogun State, as you know, is that Ogun State, due to its proximity to Lagos, should be massive industrially. Like, of course, we have a lot of industries there in Ogun State,
and the
but
ports are extremely
we don't.
Close
the ports are very close, but we don't have infrastructure. There's no lights at night. The roads are terrible. I mean, even in Shagamu, the road leading up to the former governor Gbenga Daniel's house is a mess.
Even there's a road from Ijebu that you have to take via Ondo because you can't get it to the other side. So how are you actually going to deal with the immediate issues that are going on there?
So that's the point, yeah?
Okay.
So if we're going to invest in agriculture, then it means we have to invest in infrastructure.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Infrastructure to get the produce out, right, from the farms, and then the processing infrastructure required, and infrastructure in that context speaks to manufacturing. So in my administration, we will not sell cocoa seeds. We will sell cocoa powder.